Today I'm talking photography and continuous shooting mode, a mode that I use all of the time. I've seen a lot of videos here on YouTube, other video platforms, talking about the entire scope of photography, whether it be tips, techniques, equipment, coverage of photography expeditions, and of course photos themselves. I think it's up to each individual to decide what is best for them and how they want to use their camera equipment, and not only how but what photos they want to take. So what is continuous shooting mode? Continuous shooting mode, very simply, is setting your camera so that as long as you are pressing down the shutter button, the camera will continue to take photos. I'll give a demonstration on my camera, which is the Canon EOS 1200D. Don't need the lens cap off for this one. I've got the camera set to continuous shooting mode, and you can see there my finger is on the shutter button. So this is what continuous shooting mode does. As long as you hold down the shutter button like this, it will continue to take photos. Like that. Very simple. There are some conditions to continuous shooting, obviously, as there is to everything. What the conditions are? Well, there's several. Firstly, the shutter speed. The quicker the shutter speed, the more photos you will be able to take. The memory card. That has two main conditions. Firstly, obviously, the size of your memory card. When you're out and about, you'll obviously be able to take far more photos on a 64 gigabyte memory card than you would do on a 4 gigabyte memory card. Also, the speed of the memory card is important. Memory cards are all rated by speed. I believe the fastest is still 10. It's normally on the label in a circle. It will tell you the number, and it should be on the packaging as well if you're going to buy one. I believe the maximum is 10. The higher the number, the quicker that the camera will be able to write these photos that you're taking onto the memory card, because there's slight, you could call it a buffer period. It's very slight, but there is a slight buffer time between your camera taking the photo and the photo being put on the memory card. So the quicker the speed of the memory card, the higher the rating. Is at a maximum of 10, I believe, still the top rating. The quicker the camera will be able to process those photos, and the quicker it will be able to take more photos. So how do you access the continuous shooting mode? Well, a lot of cameras, I think it's the same, certainly for the Canon ones. This is how I access it on my camera. As I said, I think the majority of cameras are the same. You can get continuous shooting mode on lots of different cameras. Compact cameras have them. I'm sure bridge cameras have them. And many different, whether you're Sony, Canon, Nokia, continuous shooting mode is available for all of these cameras. So this is how you access it on my camera. On your camera, press the display button, and you should see this sort of display of your camera's settings. On Canon cameras, it is the Q or quick button that you press to highlight the options on this screen. Press across until you highlight the single shot option, and press the set button to show the options and select continuous shooting. For an easy way to select it, highlight the shot option and use the main dial to switch across to the mode. So that is how you access it. What would you use it for? Well, when continuous shooting mode is talked about, that is basically when people talk about taking photographs where there is movement. Mostly it's talked about, when movement is talked about when people are talking about taking sports photography. When attending an event, not every venue allows, unfortunately, detachable lens cameras into their venues. But if you're taking action photos, whether it be your friends, whether it be a professional event, continuous shooting mode comes into its own when there is movement. When it's sports, whether it be like I regularly attend wrestling events, basketball, football, whatever it is, then the continuous shooting mode can be used to capture the action. You could rapidly take photos. Now there's far better videos than I could upload that talk about kind of the photography triangle of the aperture, shutter speed, and ISO, and how they all kind of merge together and how they work together, and how you adjust the settings in relation to each of them. But if you are able to set your settings up so that you get great clear photos, continuous shooting mode can help you take quick photos. There are also videos out there and information, because not everybody likes taking photos where the action looks almost as if it's posed. If you use enough high enough shutter speed, then you'll be able to take your photos almost as if the action is being posed. Some people don't like that. Some people like to see movement, and there's various different techniques you can search for that allows you to have those kind of effects on it. The uses of continuous shooting mode that I've thought about, that I don't think is really too much talked about. Certainly when I was looking at continuous shooting mode videos on YouTube, holiday photos was not one that was really touched upon. I think the continuous shooting mode is great for holiday photos. Now, some people will think that's a bit strange. Some people will wonder, well, how could you use continuous shooting mode for holiday photos? Well, the reason is because when people talk about continuous shooting mode, like I said, they talk about the subjects in front of you, about the action in front of the camera that you're actually taking photos of moving. So like I said, the subjects, whether it be sports, could even be family, kids, people moving about, whatever it is. Normally that's what people talk about when they talk about continuous shooting mode. But also it is useful when you yourself are in motion, when you yourself are moving. Several months ago I was in New York, and we did the open top tour buses several times, and continuous shooting mode was very handy. If I saw something like a building, a sign, some sort of display that I wanted to take a picture of, but the bus was in motion, it was moving through the traffic, it was making its way to the next stop, it was not able, like many of the tours in many cities around the world, unless you are pretty much booked it, you're rich enough to book it yourself, you cannot ask them to stop every time you see something that you wish to take a picture with. And perhaps if you go back to wherever it is, you may not get the great angle that you have right at that moment for like I said, maybe looking at a building or a display. You might not get the kind of square on, right in front of you angle that you may have on the upper deck of a bus. And I thought that the continuous shooting mode was very handy if I had a very limited amount of time to take photos of whatever it was that interested me enough to take a photo of. Then continuous shooting mode was very handy for that. Also, another example of being able to use it when in motion was still on the open top bus when we were going across the Manhattan Bridge, and like many bridges, there are cables and things that get in that pass by in front of you, and if you're only in single shot mode, and again the bus is at speed, it cannot stop on the bridge, it's not allowed to. If the bus has continued travelling, you may raise your camera, try and take a photo, try and time it with all the cables and everything in front of you that are continually passing. You may try and take a photo or a couple of photos, and then later on, because you're trying to take photos, you don't have time to review your photos. You may look back at your photos and realise, oh, there's a giant cable in the way. There's a giant cable going right down the middle or at the side of the photo, which pretty much ruins the photo. Using continuous shooting mode, I was able to continually take photos so that I knew that I was taking photos in between the cables, so that I was getting a clear view of the Brooklyn Bridge opposite, which was what I was attempting to take photos of, and I got some really good ones that way. So I think continuous shooting mode is very useful, not just when the people in front of you or where others are moving, but it's also I think very useful when you yourself are moving, when you yourself are in motion, whether it be on a bus, a car, being pulled around on one of those one of those, I can't remember what they call it now, but if you're on one of those bicycle things that are found in Asian cities, you can, if you see something, you've got if your settings are right, you can just keep taking a photo, and who knows, maybe I said, if you're taking the photos at different angles, and you might want one that's square on to a building, and you may take photos at different angles and come away with one that you think, well, I didn't think about taking one at that angle, but it looks pretty good. There might be something interesting also captured in the photograph, not just the building that you were interested in. Not everybody likes to use continuous shooting mode. Some people see it as kind of a cheating way, kind of an easy way to take photos. I actually like to use it. Like I said, I use it mostly because of the wrestling event, because they're moving so quickly, and maybe at some point I will try and time photos better. But I think continuous shooting mode is very useful, especially if you're, like I said, if you're limited on time, limited on opportunity to take photos. I think that continuous shooting mode is a very handy mode to have, and very useful setting to have on your camera.